The prototype that I hand wired of the Apple One. Prototype of the Apple II kind of disappeared with the lawyers and all these different copyright lawsuits and Beatles lawsuits and things. They never returned that one.
Yes.
Find it on eBay somewhere.
What are all you guys doing now?
I'm tweeting.
After
You just read that too, actually.
Yeah, right. That's we were discussing this earlier in the day. We think the next film's going to be called Welcome to Twitter.
Yeah, I had a very easy life for a long time, being retired, doing what I want, philanthropy, teaching young children for 8 years on computers, and then my last kid finally graduated high school, and I was left all alone with this big house. And I started saying yes to everything that I've been saying no to. I hadn't used a passport in 10 years, and now I'm traveling the world a lot, saying yes to a lot of invitations to speak, meeting a lot of great people and companies. I am on the boards of tons of tech companies. I'm on advisory boards. I even made an appearance here at Macworld, which I've never done. In these years since my son graduated high school, I wrote a book, which I put off for 20-some years, and the book is called I Was, and started a company with some former Apple executives. And this company was strange. Like, you go for a long time, you raise hundreds of millions of dollars, and you have to acquire some company, but you don't know what it is in advance. You don't know what you're going to do. And it was an analog chip company, and I'm not an analog guy, so I managed to back out. I didn't like the way the company's being run. Once you get a public company, some of these executives like to pay themselves, huge salaries and bonuses and triplers, and you never. And I just couldn't be around those kind of people. It wasn't ethical. So I got out. I didn't get 1 cent of money or 1 share of stock. And if something's just not right, I'm so glad I was so far away from that one. So I've been doing quite a bit. Just it never slows down. And I'm on the team that won the Segway Segway Polo World Cup 2 years, and we lost it this year. In my spare time, I put on a camp for kids, troubled kids in my house a couple of summers ago, and I let them use my house. Another friend was really putting it on more than anything. And we were giving them computers to keep. These troubled kids from New Jersey, we were giving them keyboards, the things I used to like to do in my classes. We were giving them cameras and all the computer stuff and education. So I invited a friend out that I'd met on a geek cruise, a Mac Mania geek cruise, and she came out to teach iLife because she was the best iLife teacher I knew. And then I showed her a little math puzzle, and she decided, that maybe she'd consider marrying me. She was a mathematician. So we got married on 8/8/08 at 8:08 p.m. because I can remember the anniversary that way. 8's a good binary number.
I've been working at Google for the last 3.5 years, which is one of the only companies that approaches Apple in greatness. I'm writing software. And I can't talk about what kind of software.
Yes, sir.
I've just got a question for everyone. Apple's just announced that the 17-inch MacBook Pro will have a glossy option and a matte option. Do you think that this is a sign of Apple sort of caving into complaints and whinges? Is this a good thing? What are your thoughts on the choice there?
I remember when they came out with, I guess, the 15-inch, the MacBook or something, it was only available in glossy. And I made sure all of my friends do not like glossy. You get the reflected lights and everything, only want the matte finish. I've only ordered my computers in the matte finish before, and I almost was going to go online and maybe buy a couple of 17 inches before they introduced the new one so that I could get them with the matte finish, the non-glare, the anti-glare finish, in case they stuck us with not having that option. But thank God we have the option still. I know it's the high-end, expensive machine, but no, I don't. I talk to everyone. Everywhere I go, I talk to artists and graphic artists. I talk to, computer people, network people, and nobody likes those glossy screens. I guess it's cheaper because they're on all the cheap little laptops you saw. They started going that way at the same time Apple did.
I just want to make one quick announcement. Unfortunately, we have about another 10 or 15 minutes in this forum, so please make them good. We'll all be here and at your gracious time. If you can stay, great. If not, we have seating outside of the bar upstairs, so go.
Let's go to the bar.
Way down the end.
Favorite prank, I don't answer. I've done so many pranks, and I do them to this day, and they're really long, incredible ones that I can't. It's hard to pick a favorite.
I'll tell you a prank was pulled on me while I was working on the Mac. This was in, I think it was in about August of 1983, and I was at my desk, and I got a call from the Cupertino police. And the Cupertino police said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we sent a guy out because of your request, but the handicap space was not marked correctly, so we can't tow that Mercedes." It turns out Woz, one of the rules of Woz's pranks, he likes double pranks, that you can blame the prank on someone else. So it was a prank on both Steve Jobs and me when Woz called up the Cupertino police and reported Steve Jobs' Mercedes illegally parked in the handicap place and gave the name of the person reporting it as Andy Hertzfeld. My phone number
Down in the end, we've had our hand up for a long time.
In the future, in 20 years from now, not where do you think Apple will be, where do you want Apple to be as a company? Bigger, smaller? Where do you want it to be? Anyone?
How many years did you say?
20 years from now.
Boy, that's almost hard to imagine that far out. But of course, yeah, I want Apple to be thriving as it is today.
Just the same as now.
I want it to be the same as now. I think if we get too large in market share, come on, we've got Macintosh is a lot of the users and how they feel about it, and how many people want to feel different. If everybody had a Macintosh, and then you're all saying, well, we want to be different. That's why we have it. It doesn't make sense. It's a part of that feeling. So being a little less than normal. Every time our market share was reported shrinking smaller and smaller, I just said, now I'm that much more special.
Yes, sir.
The iPod is a monopoly, almost. I mean, almost everyone has iPods rather than any other MP3 player.
Yes, sir.
If you could take a wild guess of where you think computing is going to go in the next, let's even say, shorter time frame of 5 years, where do you think it's going? And like, for example, mainframe to microcomputer. Now we're going back to the cloud, and we're using more mobile devices and collaborative. Where do you? We've got a lot of great minds up here. Where do you think computing is going to be in the next 5 years?
Off the desktop. It's wherever you need it, whenever you need it, for whatever you need it for.
The trend towards mobility will continue, and I think the primary machine may still wind up being, might be go to the tablet direction. There might be a keyboard, and it'll be a video display screen like we have now. I think 5 years from now, but it'll be, you'll take it home. It'll be multiple places at once. Companies will probably still buy machines on the desktop, though. I don't think that'll change.
Do you think it'll be location based?
No. I think the network will be really the center of your environment, like that main hard disk in your main computer is today. And that will allow all your information to be accessible to literally, I think most people will really have maybe even up to a dozen different devices and in their pocket.
My question's for Jim. So you started trying to hook up music peripherals to the Apples. Have you continued doing musical things? Have you released any music?
When I started doing that, there was no such thing as MIDI. Right? And then MIDI came along, and I had built up this huge, full-blown MIDI studio, and then it became digital audio. And then it became this whole, you needed more hard drives and faster processors, and it was like, so throw away all that other shit and go buy this all new shit. And then Gibson Guitars bought my favorite software company and killed them, which made all of my software overnight obsolete. And then Apple released OS X, and then there was no more serial cords, it was only USB, and so it was just one fucking nightmare after another. So I threw the shit all away and bought a grand piano.